If there's anything me and the MCU have in common, it's our love of absolutely over-the-top supervillains. And there are few better places to find over-the-top supervillains than Japanese cinema. As Marvel movies continue to search through the thousands of comic books in order to find their next big supervillain after Thanos, let me explore what Ultraman Belial, the Ultraman franchise's big bad, would look like if he were an MCU villain. In this video, I will explore the origins of Ultraman Belial as he appears in the Ultraman franchise, my vision for him in the MCU franchise, and I will also be drawing his all-new MCU appearance. Ultraman Belial first appeared in Mega Monster Battle Ultra Galaxy Legends as the main antagonist. His origin is that he once was an Ultraman from the Land of Light, who grew hungry for power and tried to steal the Plasma Spark, the Land of Light's main energy source. He was exiled because of it, where he was encountered by an alien named Rayblood, an ancient evil in the Ultraman universe. Rayblood merged with Ultraman Belial to use Ultraman Belial to take his vengeance on the people of the Land of Light. Ultraman Belial scourged the Land of Light, defeating every Ultraman who tried to fight him. Eventually, he was exiled by Ultraman King and imprisoned in a moon-like object hovering above the Land of Light. He would be set free by an alien Mephiles, where he would once again take his revenge. This time, Ultraman King was not there to stop him. Ultraman Belial stole the Plasma Spark, leaving the planet without a sun, cold and icy. He would use the Plasma Spark to provide energy to the monster graveyard, a place where monsters go to die, and awaken 100 monsters to use in his army. He would only be stopped when a young and powerful Ultraman named Ultraman Zero would finish his training and stop his scheme. Ultraman Belial would have many subsequent appearances, most of the time acting as the main antagonist in whatever feature he was in. He would fight Ultraman Zero many more times, and his last appearance, discounting the parallel isotope incident, would be in Ultraman Geed, where he was killed by his own cloned son. Because the aliens of the MCU are more human-like in their features, especially the Kree, Thanos, and others, I would envision the Ultraman to be similar in this aspect, being more similar to Superman, who is very human-like in appearance. Rather, I would say that their armor, which would be the classic Ultraman design, would be used to channel the specium energy within them. I would also say that their beta capsules, the classic transformation device of Ultraman that is, to be a way of supercharging their armor, and that is why they can only use the armor for so long, is because the energy will run out eventually, and if they try to use it for longer than its limit, this would break the beta capsules and leave them stranded. For me, this concept would be a good way to incorporate 3-minute rule into the MCU. The 3-minute rule is that Ultramen only have a limited time to fight before their specium energy runs out. This time limit was 3 minutes for the original Ultraman in 1966. When specium energy begins to run out, the color timer located on their chest begins to blink red rapidly. Of course, I would expect the beta capsules to last at least a little longer than 3 minutes, considering the epic fight scenes that would take place. So let's say the beta capsules would last a bit longer, maybe half an hour. In the MCU, the Land of Light would become the Empire of Light, an expansive and ever-growing ancient empire of the past, which used to rule nearly the entire expanse of the known universe. These peoples would likely be great rivals to the people of Titan, that is, Thanos' people, and I could easily see Ultraman Belial bringing about the destruction of Titan as it is spoken of in Infinity War. As for Ultraman Belial, he would have once been a great general in the Empire of Light, capturing many planets and many empires for his home planet and home empire of the Empire of Light. He would have been seen as a war hero, much like Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars, but eventually his hunger for power would lead him to rebel against the empire he had helped create. Belial would see the Empire of Light as soft and weak to their opponents, due to their altruistic nature of offering pardon to empires that had once opposed them in the past. Ultraman Belial would unite a great many of the peoples of the ancient empires that the Land of Light had conquered. And much like Darth Revan from Star Wars, Ultraman Belial would gather many followers, even from the Empire of Light, due to his reputation as a courageous and never compromising general, as well as the bonds he had created with his men, serving them as a general. I imagine that Ultraman Belial would be similar to Thanos in many ways, namely that they are both well-known conquerors who set up great empires in the outer reaches of space. But unlike Thanos, Ultraman Belial would not have some seemingly altruistic reason for his mass destruction. His goal would simply be revenge and power. And as entertaining as villains with a good reason to be bad can be, villains that are simply just bad to the bone can be even more fun. Personally, I think Belial would best work as a villain to Captain Marvel, perhaps appearing in the sequel. I could see such a movie setting up Ultraman himself to appear as a protagonist in the MCU, which would certainly not be impossible considering that Super I Productions and Marvel have been collaborating to create an Ultraman comic book. So bringing Ultraman to the American big screen for the first time in Ultraman history would just feel like the natural conclusion to this Super I Marvel collaboration. A Captain Marvel movie with Ultraman Belial as the main antagonist would be a great step in bringing Ultraman Belial into the MCU franchise. From there, I could easily see him becoming a villain in one Avengers movie. Personally, I would not seek to have him defeated in this movie, at least not permanently. I think Ultraman Belial's presence in the MCU would be too valuable to cast away in just the matter of 2 movies. Instead, I think Ultraman Belial's presence would help to give a sort of ominous feeling to this space exploration angle that MCU has introduced. His presence would add a sense of fear to space, a feeling of what else might be out there, what secrets have we not uncovered, and could there be a villain even more dangerous than Thanos lurking on the horizon? I mean, after all, if there is one powerful and incredibly dangerous space warlord out there, there could be thousands, millions ready to take Earth, and who knows when Ultraman Belial will be ready to strike again. One of the reasons I wanted to do Ultraman Belial as an MCU villain before I did Ultraman as an MCU hero is because I feel that Ultraman Belial has much more potential for an incredible and unique design in the MCU than Ultraman does. Not to say that Ultraman can't have a cool design in the MCU. Indeed, I think he can, and I do plan to draw this someday. But I think Ultraman Belial has much more room to make an incredible and dangerous-looking design. I wanted to give a sense of Roman armor to Ultraman Belial's design, mostly because of his reputation as a great warlord, much like Julius Caesar. I was also partially influenced by DCEU villains, such as Steppenwolf, as I feel that Ultraman Belial does have a lot in common with such villains. The background that you see me designing here is that of the prison that Belial was once trapped in, hovering above the Land of Light. This would be the moment Belial breaks out of his prison and begins to wreak havoc on the universe once again. A momentous moment considering that Ultraman Belial would have been imprisoned for many thousands of years in the MCU. This would give the feeling that he is a very ancient evil, much like Sauron and other Dark Lords of that type, which has been something I have always favored, considering that the ancientness of certain villains helps to give an ominous feeling to their presence. That once they almost had the universe in their grasp, that everything almost ended thousands of years prior, and that now that same cataclysmic event is occurring once again. I could very easily see this ancient evil premise being used quite effectively in the MCU to give Belial a presence even more fearsome and scary than Thanos' was, considering that Thanos had not been a conqueror for all too long. After all, there is just something about villains returning from an ancient past that makes them all the more frightening. I would very much like to hear your thoughts on the premise of Belial in the MCU in the comments down below. What do you think? Is Belial a scarier villain than Thanos? If Belial and Thanos met in the MCU, who would win? And would Belial go after the Infinity Stones like Thanos did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.